Welcome back to the Rebelcast. You know, I've done interviews with people like Technicals, the franchise, Mr. Snowflake, my favorite son. But this one's from me. This is personal. You see, boys and girls, when I started doing any kind of content creation, when I started watching gameplay videos, retrospectives, and everything, there was one person I always came back to. He was ahead of his time, in my opinion, and I could not stop watching. He gave me a view behind the velvet rope, and I get to speak to him today. I want to let you in beside our velvet rope here at the Rebelcast. I've had 5 minute conversation with this man, so I want this to be special for you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Slope's Game Room himself, DJ Slope.
Mate, how you doing? You all good?
I'm good.
I'm loving that intro. I think I need to get you in and doing all my videos now. You can do the intro to all of my videos. I'm never going to big myself up that much.
Well, but the fact is this, like I said,
excuse me.
You were the end all be all. Like I reached out to you just on cool, and you was within 5 minutes. You hit me back, and you're like, "Yeah, sure." I was at work, and yeah, like you're every like I said this about so many people as I started doing interviews because that's what my niche is. I love interviewing people, meeting new people, and like I said, it's so humbling to see that you guys who I look up to, who I like followed, are just human beings who are just good guys.
And that's
fantastic.
The thing. Like I remember being in the exact same position. You know, I had a lot of all my influences back in the day, and literally, I mean, I could. Out of everyone, I've always got this one person in my mind. I'm not going to say who, but everyone's cool. Like everyone that does the stuff that you know that influenced me and stuff like that, like your Larrys and your lazy game reviews, and the only person I've not had the privilege of speaking to is Angry Video Game Nerd himself, obviously. But everyone else, we're talking like Re-Res, yeah, we're talking Re-Res, everyone in the gaming space, besides one person, which I won't say, was really cool. Everyone's always been cool and willing to chat with me, and even when I was in my early days, I remember I remember one day I was in the middle of a stream and I was, trying to bring in the numbers back when I was only a couple of thousand people. And then I got a notification pop up that says Ashins has become a patron. I'm like, what just happened? What just happened? Like, I remember just losing my mind. Like, and I'd only ever spoken to the man a couple of times. Yeah, he's always been cool as well. Like people, the best channels, in my opinion, not to blow my own trumpet, but the best channels are the ones out there that give time to everyone, no matter what size.
Agreed. And like I said, like this, like I'm not saying I'm big by any stretch of the imagination, but my philosophy has always been is that when this becomes work, I'm no longer going to do it because this is a hobby and it's fun. And I've always got that vibe from you. Like, first off, let me ask you the first question I was always
go for it.
DJ Slopes. Well, how did you come up with that name?
I've been a DJ for all of my teen years into like now. I was a lot more heavy on it before I had kids, and I was actually on the festival circuit and the club circuit and stuff like that. But obviously, you give up of several things when you actually become a DJ. When you become a dad, sorry. And I remember once underage clubbing, I was out, and there was this girl that I really, really liked. Heavily strung up on this girl, and she said I looked like Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh my god, I can actually see that. I can kind of see that.
I had sort of like I had that like trying to be Eminem style thing I was going through, during the Slim Shady days.
We all bleached our hairs at one point, right?
Yeah, and I'd bleached hair and it had grown out, so it had gone back, and it was like the spikes had gone back after a night of clubbing as well. It was a bit wet, so I looked. I didn't watch it at the time, but yeah, I looked like this Spike guy. So then I changed my name to DJ Spike to try and impress her. I don't know. And then that was my DJ name for the longest time, DJ Spike, even though it's the most generic, boring DJ name in the world. It's like calling your dog Rover, or, like it's really obvious stuff.
Fair.
Or Spike. So my friends started calling me DJ Slope, not because of the geography term, because we didn't know that was a negative term, the word slope.
Never took it as such, but yeah.
No, yeah, it is. I remember I found that out many, many years into calling myself DJ Slope, but it's got nothing to do with that. But in the film Shallow Hal, there's a line in there where he goes, but it was like a really slow comeback to a slagging off, and he goes, "That's why they call it a quip, not a slope."
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, and my friends started calling me DJ Slope to wind me up. And as a piss take, essentially. Sorry, excuse the language. And
you can say whatever you want here. You're good.
And eventually it just clicked one day. I was like, you know what? Slope is better than Spike. Everyone remembers the name DJ Slope because it's a bit stupid. It's a quite funny, weird, and catchy. So yeah. Spike was generic, Slope was cool, and I called it DJ Slope. And then that's it. I just had Slope's Game Room, because I'm into my gaming.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this. Clearly, I told you that I found your channel, Splatterhouse. And similar to you, you talked about Splatterhouse 1. I fell in love with Splatterhouse 2. Mm-hmm. My cousin had the Mega Drive, and I went over there, and everybody got their ass torn up by that game because in its time, it was a difficult game.
It was.
But for sure. I handled it. I just walked through it. I started a new game and walked right through it. Got to the part where the amalgamation of body parts and it's the wolf's head and all that at the end, and I died there.
Wow, that's impressive.
But I just got into it. I know I was terrified. I know I had nightmares, but when I had a crowd watching me, that drug me forward. That was like I was 9 years old, and I had my teenage adult cousins like, "You're doing it, do it, get it," and I just I dropped the ball at the end. But for me, that was the first time they recognized me and looked at me like, "Oh, okay, so he might be good at these games." Mm-hmm. Of course, when I was younger, there was no profit in gaming getting older.
Excuse me.
But what made you start the channel? That's what I actually wasn't going to ask. What made you want to?
I've always been fascinated with the history of gaming, and I remember because back in the day, here in the UK, we had home computers were very much the big thing. So when people on YouTube are talking about the video game crash of 1983, the majority of people in the UK, if not everyone in the UK of my age and around about, didn't know about the video game crash of 1983 until YouTube came along. Like it just wasn't a thing. And I remember I had an Amstrad CPC. I lived on quite a small estate, and I remember seeing an NES, but the school I went to had nothing but Mega Drives. There was only 70 kids at the entire school. There was 11 in my year, and the year above me had 3 children. Like we shared a classroom. It was so small. And I don't know if I knew a Super Nintendo even existed because just no one around me had one. And I was just so brainwashed. But I remember still having this Mega Drive, which took over my life. I discovered what Sonic the Hedgehog was. Like, wow, what is this? This is unbelievable. This is so much better than any home computer that I've ever played, like the Spectrums and the Amstrad CPCs and stuff like that. And that thing just got put in the attic and I didn't touch it. But I do remember getting up there and pulling it down because I was like, you know what, I want to play those games again. There's something about wanting to go back, even though for the most part they were bad games and they were games I didn't even know what I was doing.
I have a tattoo of well, if you can't see it, it's the Maverick symbol from Mega Man X. Mega Man was the first video game I ever played, so I completely understand that.
Yeah, there was just something I had to go back and try those games out, and then I remember like asking my mum, "Where are all my Amstrad Power magazines?" Because I couldn't even read them back in the day because most of it was more aimed at an adult market, and she was like, "I threw them away." I'm like, what? They're like. She goes, but you don't read them. And I'm like, but I need them. Like I started from that moment on, from the early days of the Mega Drive. We're talking early days of the probably the late 80s or the early 90s. I was starting to get a tingle for retro gaming and trying to discover things that I didn't have. And like, I remember when my neighbors ended up getting their Mega Drive too, the Aladdin pack. They sold me all of their Master System games for £1 a pop. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to buy this new Mega Drive game that I've been saving up for ages. I'm going to go and buy 40 Master System games instead. And I really got into like learning about the history of gaming. And my friends, for the most part,
would that be Shelley?
Well, they as I grew older and PlayStation 1 and 2 and whatever came out, we didn't really know too much between us about much of video game history. But then when obviously YouTube came along, I was like, oh wow, I'm discovering all of this awesome stuff. I remember going into game shops over here in the UK and people talking about how incredible Mega Man was back in the day and the video game crash of 1983 and E.T. destroying the world and all this other stuff. And I'm like, but that isn't our history. That is not the history of the UK at all. Like I had no idea who Mega Man was until maybe the PlayStation era, maybe. I may have seen it in passing during the 16-bit era, but I didn't know what a Mega Man was. Like, it just wasn't the history in the UK, from where I grew up, at least. So I wanted to tell the stories that I grew up with and the history things that I learned about. And that's basically how the channel came about. There's just me taking inspiration. It's like, like if you was going to start a band, you take inspiration from the groups that you like, you do your own thing. And that's what I was doing. I was taking inspiration from your Lazy Game reviews, your Larry Bundys. And I remember Angry Video Game Nerd actually did a video about the history of the Sword Quest games,
Mm.
like where you could win a chalice, like a real world chalice and a real world sword, and all this other stuff. I didn't know nothing about any of that sort of stuff.
So like when you say that, it's a complete opposite of the spectrum here. You were on the Mega Drive. I remember being in my mom's arms, like it's one of my oldest memories. And I don't have a lot of memories from back then, but I remember seeing a commercial for the NES and thinking,
wow.
I want that. And then seeing in grocery stores, Game Pro magazine, Nintendo Power, all these things.
Yeah.
And I would just sit there and absorb all this knowledge. And what I love about your channel, for those of you who don't know his channel, Slopes Game Room, it's amazing because you give us a view behind the velvet rope. You talk about the games. You talk a bit about the story and how the entertainment of the story, but you tell us things that we may not know, like why this company went this way. I'll talk about you did the Legacy of Kain. Another guy I really love. Another guy I really love. I just had him on recently. My Favorite Son. He mentioned that he used your video as reference because he did a whole retrospective on the story.
I saw just before we jumped on here. I saw who the last person you spoke to, and I saw you guys were talking about that. I didn't notice that part. I'm going to go back and check it out again now. But yeah, I noticed that he's actually done a retrospective video.
Well, no, I talked to him privately because I mentioned to him that I'm having Slope's Game Room. I'm having DJ Slope on my fucking doing an interview, and he was like, "Well, I know that guy." I'm like, "Yeah." And so we talked about it. And like I said, if you want to watch a story base about the story of the Legacy of Kain, you watch that. But you're telling us about why they had so many issues, why the development was Crystal Dynamics, the sad case of it, talking about each individual person. And the detail that you go into is just incredible. Nobody does that. Everybody's so quick to put humor in, which there's some satire in yours, absolutely. But it's thorough. You're getting an education. I can pop one of your videos on and in the background while I'm doing other work and I'm learning. And I don't think people can appreciate that nowadays because you're the only one that I've seen doing that as thoroughly as you do.
Well, I appreciate it, mate.
What made you go that route? Because so many people could have gone, and been a carbon copy of Rolf, the Igor video game nerd, or whoever.
And there was back in the day. I remember the first video I ever created because it took me months to upload that first video, and I went through different iterations of what I was going to do. I remember I made the intro slightly different, which I wish I kept, and I remember it was different. I remember at one point I was going to be an animated person on the screen that had a big mustache over the mouth, and then just wiggle that. And then that would be the mouth movement, whilst I talk a bit like Beetlejuice or something, like it was going to be like a weird thing. And I was like, no, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. And then I remember one channel I was in love with, and I still am, Lazy Game Reviews. Someone else I've reached out to, way bigger than me, just instantly got back to me, and we've collaborated in the past several times. He done a history on calculators, and I'm like, you tell anyone that he's done. I'm watching a video about calculators, and it couldn't sound more boring. That is like such a boring topic, but he makes it interesting due to the way he talks, the way his humor is. It's very clean. It's very well edited. There's no gumph. And I was like, okay, I'm thinking this is the angle I want to start going down. And that's why I've always been more interested in the history of gaming rather than the actual storylines of gaming.
Yeah.
As in the story in the games themselves. And that's just what I want to try and bring forward. I always try my best to make, without trying to sound big-headed, the best video I possibly can on whatever the particular topic I tackle. And
I think that's what makes creators like you so great. You're well-spoken. There's no denying that. Like you come off as a very intelligent guy from the conversation. Even now, I'm finding that you are the guy that I see on those videos. I think the best channels are basically that person just dialed up to 11. You're just being yourself, but on a bigger platform. And like I said, I'll go back to Splatterhouse. I was so intrigued. I wanted to go play the games again, but now I'm like, well, why did that happen? And oh, well, I didn't know that there was a small spinoff that they did for Nintendo, and like all these different
one Paco,
all these different avenues. It's like, wow, and it makes you appreciate the dedication that these people put into their craft. No different than what you do. So you don't just do that. You do crazy Kickstarters and stuff like that. What made you diverge away from also the video game backstories to getting into those stories?
I mean, I've always been fascinated with that sort of thing. I spend way too much money and time on Kickstarter. Not so much these days, but definitely during the height. And I'm literally working on one right now, actually. But basically, when you cover a smaller topic, maybe columns or I don't know, Croc or whatever it is you cover, that's not too bad. But when you take on something like Legacy of Kain, or I recently did Gallagher, Pac-Man was another one that was over 2 hours of me just talking about Pac-Man games. the amount of months that takes to research that is unbelievable. The amount of games you have to play, all you're thinking about is Pac-Man. And you wake up in the morning and you're thinking of Pac-Man. You're in the shower and you're thinking of Pac-Man. And you're so destroyed by, I never want to look at that yellow circle again. I need something else to like just to reset my mind before I work on the next history video. And Kickstarter is essentially my junk magazine. That's the magazine you see on the shelf at a shop where it's like, you know, like wife finds son, whatever. I don't know, cheating on her with a penguin or something. I don't know, whatever. Like the ridiculous stories that are just so fun and gossipy and junk filled. You know, it's my junk food content, but it resets me. It means that I'm ready and I'm okay. I'm fresh to do the next video. Yeah, like I said, I've just done Gallagher, so I've been playing that over and over and over and over again, listening to that same tune constantly, and whilst I'm editing it and listening to me say the word Gallagher thousands of times a day, I just like, okay, I need to break from this. I need to now go to do something else, and that's what happens. And you bring up Splatterhouse. Those were the days before, maybe before Kickstarter. I'm not sure, Kick Scammers. But I remember Splatterhouse in particular. I did Splatterhouse, Shinobi, the original one, before I had to take it down and re-upload it due to a copyright thing. And there was another one on there. I can't remember what it is, but I'd done all three of those in the space of 3 weeks. Jeez. And I actually became ill. And I remember Splatterhouse in particular. I actually became physically sick because I ended up having, at the time I was working a 9-to-5 job, and I'd set myself a goal where I have to get a video out every week, not for any particular reason of like the algorithm or whatever else. It was just my personal barrier that I'd made for myself that I had to do. And I was working till 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning, which wasn't, you know, for someone that's a DJ is not too bad, but you learn to go with the punches. Yeah. But I was drinking coffee. Like, let's go make myself another coffee. It's 4 a.m. I can't keep my eyes open, and I just work and I work and I work. Right, I'm gonna go give myself half an hour kip, get back to work. And by the end of Splatterhouse, I remember I actually physically became ill. I had to take time off work for it. That video made me sick. It's only ever happened twice: once with Splatterhouse and once with a Kick Scammer that I was doing.
Well, that makes me feel better because, like, I when I get into this, like I said, it's a hobby, but it takes over at times. Like, it does. Like just reaching out to people, and again, being lucky enough to have you here, but people like like I said, my favorite son, Mr. Snowflake, who I think you would love his content if you're into Lolk House. But he, for instance, I just talked to him earlier today. Being a wonderful individual that he is, he sets a goal for himself to get videos out within 2 to 3 weeks. And I've told him, I said, man, you gotta, take a break. Your content is amazing. You're gonna get the views. You know that people respect your craft. When did you? I mean, have you taken a break on that, or do you have to get?
Yeah, I don't hit every week now. I remember, I can't remember which channel it was now, but I probably heard it more than once. A lot of big channels would say, always try and do something new every couple of videos, and just over time, you'll just naturally progress into a better channel. And now, when I go back and watch one of my first 50 complete histories, I will notice little things. Even, some things are easy, like the fact that I've got a better microphone now, or stuff like that. But just the way certain things are filmed with lighting, the way certain things are edited, like I feel like I'm so much better now than I was back then, but it just takes longer every time I try something new. And I'm like, okay, that thing is so good, I need to do that now in every video, but it's going to take so much longer if I do. But I still do it. It just means every so often, I physically can't do every week anymore.
But it's the quality of it. You're one of the few channels I can actually say some people just regurgitate the same old, content, and you can tell that it's just, I'm going to put this here, this here, this is saved here. I'm just going to put this, add new words here, add new text here, add new vocal here. Yours, you see an evolution from the beginning of your channel to where you're at now, and it's remarkable. Like I said, like I consider you, for me, the godfather of as far as these gaming content.
Oh, no way. That's ridiculous.
I just, it's, again, and you're humble about it, but that's my truth. Like I told Trips, who's my counterpart, I'm so excited and nervous about this because I started my own channel, and a Splatterhouse was the very first thing I tried to do. And I was like, how did he do this? Because I had to find, I had to ask other people for their video, because I didn't have access to all that stuff. I didn't have the funds to go out and purchase another Mega Drive or get it on Steam or wherever it may be. So I had to go and say, hey, do you mind if I use this video? And they was like, yeah, no problem. because I would never want to put anybody's content up, and I try to talk about the speed running of it and what have you. But I know there's more people than me out there that are inspired by what you do. How good is a feeling to know that the evolution is there, that people can go back and see your catalog and say, wow, I remember when he did this, but it's so much better now.
It's nuts. Like, and that's why, as an example, I did Gallagher recently, and it's got, okay, this is going to make me sound really big-headed, but it's got like 17,000 views in less than 2 weeks, but that's very low numbers for someone of my channel, of my size. I should be tripling that easy. But for whatever reason, Gallagher just isn't popular out of the gate. It's a video I always know my complete history is going to do well over time. And therefore I'm not like butthurt about it. I'm not like upset. I mean, obviously I always want my videos to do as well as they can, but when it doesn't perform like that, I still know that I've put what I can into it, and I'm already working on whatever the next big thing is. It happens with so many videos. It happened with War of the Worlds, and I remember about 6 months ago, 6 months or a year later, I was at a convention and someone stopped me and goes, "I loved your War of the Worlds video," and it makes it completely worthwhile. Completely worthwhile. When people come up to me and they say, "Oh, I love your video on something that isn't my top 10 all-time best videos," it just makes it so worth it. Because I had Sega personally, someone that works at Sega personally said, "I loved your video on Choo Choo Rocket," and I'm like, what a random video of all my videos to talk about. Like, that's the one you've gone to. Like, that's so awesome for me, because obviously I've done it because I've got some affection for the game series or whatever else, but I've obviously caught someone else as well, and that's what makes it fully worth it. I love that.
So what I've learned in like doing this and the interviews and talking to people, there's always somebody that, if you have that feeling, for instance, Choo Choo Rocket, you have that feeling for that game, there is somebody else out there that's going to watch that and go, and there's always somebody looking for that, and they find it on your channel and say, wow. And then once they see that and they see the quality of what you've done, that's when you get a lifetime fan. That's when you get a viewer who's going to stick by you forever. Like I said, I've been watching you since, of all things, I just typed in Splatterhouse and you're one of the first things that come up. I was like, okay, well, what else does he have? Oh, let me check
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. That's how I was so starving for content back in the day before I started YouTube, trying to find people that made my stuff. And I found all the big players, all of the obvious people, your Metal Jesuses and whatever else. But when I ended up doing this myself, and I started to learn trying to teach myself on how to promote my own content, that's when I started discovering smaller channels and doing the collaborations with them and whatever else. And that's when I discovered, wow, there's actually a wealth of this information out there. It's just, you got to know where to look. And like you say, I would do the same thing. I'd find someone that's talking about Echo the Dolphin or whatever it may be. And I'm like, oh, what else does that channel talk about? So yeah, for sure.
Well, and another thing you said moments ago was, there's a piece of you in each one of those things. There's something in there that caught your attention. What is it about these retro games that really does it for you? I mean, granted, you could do stuff on Elden Ring or whatever may be out now, but you focus on that retro, and I love that about your channel, because it reminds me of a time when, okay, so you talked about the game crash. It wasn't in the UK.
Well, it was unknown. To us.
So here it was the arcade crash when arcades died, and it broke my heart because I was a huge fighting game fan, from the Street Fighters to King of the Fighters, all these games, and arcades just died out. I was one of those kids that showed up, and I put my quarter on the machine. But you talk about those old games, and I feel like I'm going back, and it's so much nostalgia.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. It's really weird because I don't try and create a nostalgic machine, but at the same, to trick people and do the Pixar thing where you're pulling on heartstrings and whatever else. Like it just happens. I'm, without blowing my own trumpet again, I'm not too bad at the audio editing. That's my DJ side of things, and where I did like remixing and stuff like that. I know how to play around with audio and stuff like that. I keep mentioning Gallagher because it's the most recent one I did, but just adding certain little sections where you hear like the coin go in and like the extra life, or little things like that come in, and I do things and I'm purposely going, oh, that's quite cool and nostalgic, even though I'm personally, like, I remember playing the game, but I'm not hardcore nostalgic on Gallagher. Like, I remember having fun with it, but it's 50, 60, 70 games down the list of nostalgia for me. Like Splatterhouse would be about that. Sonic would be about that.
Care. Like Okay, so I'll say that, even the little coin thing, because I heard that. I was thinking about that. It's the little stuff that So I'm kind of OCD with that stuff. I'm like, when I hear that coin flip, or I hear that, I know you put that there for a reason. And again, you keep calling about Galaga. I'm going to go back to Splatterhouse. You had the MTV logo. You had a
Yeah.
picture of Macaulay Culkin at like age 6 to 15. And it was those subtle things when you talked about your friend Shelly and you put Clarissa from the
Oh,
Nickelodeon.
mate, it's mental you mentioned Shelley. Like, I tell you what, like, I've not spoken to that girl forever, but you bringing up Splatterhouse, just like the first thing at the beginning of the interview, my mind instantly went back to living on the block in a place called Cranbrook in Kent, and I can see her house. I can almost see the little kitchen table that they bought the crappy little CRT in, where we was playing Splatterhouse, and me and all my friends like, whoa, should we really be watching this? This is a bit, you know, adult for us kids sort
Okay,
of
so
thing.
like, I'm glad you said that too, because like as I'm listening to your intro, you hear these undertone sounds of someone screaming, and I don't
Yeah.
know if it's from the game or not, but you're putting that stuff
It's so
in.
long ago, I don't know. I'm not
And
sure.
but it's so like you said, talking about audio, how this stuff is so important. It's not just the visual aspect of it. It's not just the storytelling. The audio, music in games is so important. And I
Oh,
think that
so
you as a
important.
DJ, you get that, but more than anybody,
Mhm.
your videos are so well done because it's not, you don't focus on one aspect. What makes you such? I'm not trying to give you a big head or anything. I promise.
No,
I'm
mate,
really
no,
not.
no, it's getting heavy in here.
But like it's almost like you can tell if you're really listening, if you're really someone who does this, who's actually a
Mhm.
content creator, you know that was purposely done. I know you did that on purpose.
Mhm.
When did you become so, for lack of a better term, a perfectionist as far as that goes? Because I know that you're not going to put a video out unless you're happy with it.
Yeah.
What made you so
I
hard on
don't know.
yourself?
It just constantly goes. I won't ever finish a video until it's ready. Like, back when I was working a 9 to 5 job and doing YouTube, I mean, that was a 4 year stint, maybe at that point before I did it, and getting videos out weekly. I would have to miss out on things at the weekends from time to time. You know, like a video's finished when it's finished.
Hmm.
I remember I was a bit more lax back then at what type of content I'd put out. Like, it was always the best of my ability, but at the same time, if I got a record from a record label, that's a couple of hours job compared to
Yeah.
the Splatterhouse video, which would take, you know, a couple of weeks or a few weeks or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I've always just tried to push myself harder and harder every time, especially on the audio editing. I've always just I've been lucky. I remember this one channel, that when I did the Splatterhouse video, I think that the day before they did like a one-off video talking about One Paco Graffiti, like a one-off review about One Paco Graffiti. And they put like their amount of effort into it, but it wasn't like the level of where I would go with a video. And I'd obviously already spent weeks and weeks prepping Splatterhouse and whatever. Anyway, that person then came to my video. Oh, wow, I can't believe you've done this. I've just done One Paco Graffiti. Was pointless me doing my video now because you've done Splatterhouse. And I just left it. But then from that video, that one person stopped doing those types of reviews and started talking about news, and has now completely blown up big time.
So again, like you may not want to get a big head, but you're inspiring these younger, smaller channels to be better. Like I said, you inspired me to follow my craft as far as gaming and what have you, and got me to this point now where I'm reaching out to people in other communities. Yes, there's controversy in other communities, but you were the catalyst for a lot of that, even in my YouTube creation. How does it feel to be that? Like
Oh, mate, it's freaking awesome. It's freaking awesome. Like, I'm so chuffed. I'm very lucky in the sense that I've definitely played the long game. Like, I've tried my best to create the best content I can, especially with the complete histories. And like I say, a lot of the time, these complete histories, they don't do well out of the gate because, oh my God, suddenly a 1.5 hour video talking about one particular game franchise that you may or may not be interested in has just suddenly dropped. People aren't going to instantly run to that. If I did a video on the latest Gran Turismo 7, you know, review, that would instantly run up the view chart because it's the now an important thing. But in 1 year's time or 2 years time or whatever else, no one's interested in Gran Turismo 7 review anymore. But people are still looking up Streets of Rage or Splatterhouse or Golden Axe: The Complete History and all these different complete histories. So even though the views are small, it's a constant trickle, just endlessly. And that's now I've got almost 100 complete histories under my belt. It's worked out for me being able, the fact that I've actually been able to turn it into a job.
absolutely.
Yeah. So.
But you've also, and I feel like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like you've got to keep your soul as far as it goes. You're doing what you want to do. You're
Yeah.
to be able to do the content you have a passion for, and you're not selling out to, like I said, Elden Ring, Gran Turismo, whatever it may be. You're doing what you like. And
Yeah.
like I said, I've talked to other people, and I didn't interview them because I just felt like they were unhappy. And it's like, you're not the person I want to reach out to. Talking to you, I feel like you're happy. You're still doing what you like to do. It may be a job, but you still love it. And that's a beautiful.
Yeah, and that is the thing. I do love the fact that the other side of that wall is my bed. Like that's where I sleep in that room, and then I walk into this room. I get to work, and that's it. Like I woke up really, really early this morning, about 5 o'clock. I'm like, you know what? I might just go clean up that script. And it's just, you know, like I love that this has become my job. It's definitely the best job I've ever had. But what I will say, I'm going off tangent here. It wouldn't be.
Go. You have all. Go.
I wouldn't be able to do this as a job if I didn't have everything I did leading up to this. I'm actually been asked to speak at a school. They wanted to get a YouTuber in to speak. You know, there's a lot of kids want to become YouTubers.
Oh yeah.
Although when they find out that I'm one, they get all excited, and then when I tell them, I talk about games from the 70s and 80s, they start drifting off from that point. But I can't remember where I was going with this. But yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's the actual jobs I've had leading up to this that I think has actually helped make me successful on YouTube. The fact that I've done DJing and producing, and actually being able to have the confidence of speaking in front of a massive crowd of people. I did it in sales jobs.
That is one thing I'll agree with you on. You know, it doesn't seem hard for someone like you who's been doing it, but I'll admit, I can only speak from my own personal experience. Putting that camera on, I mean, I don't know if you saw me before I started. I'm breathing, going, okay, I can do this, okay. But it's every time I hit that and we're recording this, so it's not live, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I can do this. And then you hit the record, and once that red light comes on, I kind of go into a different zone. So it's just, it's difficult. Like once you get over that hump, that's a big one as far as content creation.
It's a second nature thing now. Just turn the microphone on, let's get recording. But yeah, it's all the jobs and all of the experiences I've had in my life leading up to this. If I didn't have those experiences, even in the things that I wasn't a fan of in jobs, jobs that I've had in the past, they have actually led me to this. A perfect example was when I was working in sales, and at the time I was working in IT sales. It isn't any kind of fun IT sales. We're talking like blades and server parts and stuff like that, and stuff that even to this day is Japanese to me. I just told them what was on the sheet and they bought it. But I remember, as more of a junior sales role in that role, I'll never forget this manager walking up to me and says, like, Dan, you need to do better. You need to be waking up in the morning. You need to be in that shower thinking about how can I get more customers and stuff like that. And I know that person because I still have them on there, and they've left that IT company. They've got no interest in IT, and they could go now work at a baked bean company, and their life will be baked beans. They'll be waking up in the morning thinking about baked beans until they go to bed. And it just wasn't me. No matter how much I tried to get myself into that mindset. I mean, it was good from a sales point of view, and me being able to speak publicly and whatever else. That's a good thing that I've learned for life. But I just couldn't sell something that I have zero interest in.
I'm so glad I'm getting to talk to you because, I worked at GameStop, and I thought I'm working at GameStop. This is like I get to sell games, and trying to get me to sell something I didn't believe in, it just didn't work. I remember when I first started working at GameStop, Doom 3 had come out.
Oh wow, okay.
And I thought, I like this game. I love everything about it. I love the resolution. I could tell you things about that game that nobody, because I cared about it. But, you tell me to sell Cooking Mama, and I'm like, it's a game.
Exactly. Exactly. And I remember when I started YouTube, and I'm like, oh, this is fun. And I remember the very first video I ever did. I remember I put it up in a Retro Gamer magazine. I've got some around here somewhere. Their forums, and I went over to their forums and I posted it in the wrong section, not the YouTube section, like the actual proper forum where you're not supposed to post YouTube links. And but people liked it, and I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. I'm actually interacting with these people that like this stuff. And then I tried it again a month later, and I tried it again, and then I was becoming that person that was waking up in the morning thinking instantly about YouTube. I was looking at my phone at stats, and I was trying to find new stories and things that I could talk about, reading up interviews from classic people that worked on games and whatever else. Okay, that's cool. I can add that into whatever else. And I become that person I didn't want to be but I'm not selling server parts or baked
Yeah.
beans or whatever the latest company I worked for. I was actually selling my interests, things that I'm really interested in. And from that point on, I realized, oh, wow, this is kind of becoming a job, but it was a job for once in my life that I'm actually enjoying, you know?
Oh yeah.
And that's it. Like everyone say, you got to find a job. What's the saying? Something like, if you find a job, if you turn your hobby into a job, it won't become a job. It's whatever else. That was it. I was enjoying what I was doing. And when I realized that, wow, I could turn this into a lifetime, a lifestyle, I didn't want to stop. It was the biggest motivation I've ever had in my life. I've never worked harder for it.
And that's one of the greatest addictions you can find. Like I said, when you find that niche, that thing that's you, it's not, oh, I'm selling servers or whatever. I'm doing this for me, and that's a big deal. It'll add years to your life.
And it will. And the thing is, I've seen managers in the past. I used to work at an IT company. I've worked at several, so I know people that I know may watch this. They don't know which boss I'm talking about, but one of those bosses hates IT. But at some point in his life, he's realized, oh, if I sell IT parts, I can make money. And his driving goal is to earn more money, not to do something that he loves. And now he's built a career surrounding himself in people that, sure, he might get along with, but people that are obviously all interested in IT, something that he's not, you know, like, and he's made a living out of something, and obviously he's very successful with it, but he's made a living doing something that he's not interested in. He's just interested in the number going up.
Well, let me ask you that point blank. What's more important to you? Is it your happiness or is it the money? I mean,
exactly. Yeah. I will, if this channel starts to go down, I'll push so hard to keep it going up because I love it as a job. Not because, you know, it brings in good money or anything like that. It's just more the fact that I'm getting to talk about games. I'm getting everything about the YouTube thing interests me. We're talking. I like learning how to promote myself. You know, promote the media. I love talking to other people about it. I reached out recently to another huge channel that's 10 times my size. I said, hey, do you want to have a little chat back and forth about how you promote yourself on different social media platforms? Because I've come up with these new tactics I'd love to talk to you about because I'm just so interested in it. I just want to give my tactics away to people and explain how I do it, you know, because I find it interesting.
Agreed, because like, okay, so I was strictly just my YouTube and my Twitter, and that was it. I just kind of, then I'm recently getting into Instagram. Like I do artwork for this channel, and I make Redbubble, which is a fantastic platform to use. I sell shirts and stickers on there, but it's not even about that. It's that I can expand myself through creation and put that on there. We have so many tools in this time that it's amazing what we can accomplish. This can be a career. You know, with a splash of luck and a lot of hard work, it can you're living proof of that, you know. But as far as the creation or what have you, let me ask you this: how your research? How far do you go? What are your, for someone starting out who wants to do what you do? What tools can you give them for the future?
It's the how long is a piece of string question, because some things can be done for you in a sense. You know, you can find articles that will have interviews with every single person on a particular team, and if that one particular game, like Choo Choo Rocket, we said there's only 1 or 2 games in the entire franchise, it's going to be a quite easy research piece. However, you know, like I remember like my more recent Streets of Rage video I did, you get to a stage where you start gaining contacts over time. I started gaining, I know someone at Sega, and I can say to them, do you have any concept art on this particular game? And they will send me some.
Nice.
I did that for my Daytona video. I was able to reach out to Tom Kalinske, who used to be the head of Sega, and said, hey, what's your opinion on this? Just give me any quote that I can use in the video. And he did. I've got the guy on email. So over time, you'll know the cool places to go. I suppose guaranteed places I will always go to. I'll always be checking the internet database for a particular game. I'll always have a look through retro gamer magazines and stuff like that. I'll always find the top 4 or 5 people, go searching for those people to see if there has been any interviews. If it's a bit of a smaller game, you can sometimes actually even find their Facebook profile just pops up. Wow. And then you send them a message and, oh, hey, are you the guy that works on? Yes, I am. 9 times out of 10, they're going to go, what the hell are you talking about? Okay, wrong person, sorry. But that's how I was able to speak to Ed Annunziata from the Echo the Dolphin. games just because I found him on Facebook. Like, we have so much at our fingertips now.
Absolutely. And
yeah.
So, as far as the research goes, have you ever had a project you couldn't finish? Like you just, you know what? Would you elaborate on that?
I remember Power Stone was one of them.
Oh,
I have now got a little bit. I discovered these sort of, is it Capcom? No, Capcom. Yeah, they put out their own little magazine things, but it was only 4 or 5 pages of information about their games. And you can, I've done this a million times where you get your phone, you get your Google Translate, and you're just going over the document trying to work out what's being said through the translation tool on your phone. And I found one on Power Stone, but it wasn't a lot of information. I found the guy, I can't remember his name right now, who made them. And I said, please let me interview you. And he just wouldn't do it. He said, you've got to go through Capcom to speak to me. And I'm like, but I'm speaking to you right now. Like, it wouldn't be hard. Just here's 10 questions. Like, and then I can make a video. But that's one that I've struggled with. I've not looked at it for a couple of years, but yeah, you hit brick walls from time to time.
So what advice would you give somebody who hits it? Because I mean, look, that can be debilitating. For example, I've reached out to people, and some people, they just don't respond. You're not big enough, or you don't have this. No, what advice would you give someone who's starting out?
I don't know. I mean, I've always had 50 projects on at once. So when one starts to stall, I'm already doing the next one. It's just my mentality. I don't stop.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like I said, I'll reach out, and for every 50 that says no, one's got to say yes, right? So
yeah, exactly. I'm working on. I've had this in the works for so many years. A Sega World video. So like there was a theme park in the UK, an indoor theme park, Sega World, as in from Sega, and it was at the Trocadero Center. And I've got this insane database of people I've reached out to. Did you work at Sega World? Did you work at Sega World? There's endless amounts of people, and I must have reached out to 50 people. I've had about 30 conversations, maybe. And I'm talking, I've spoken to people that just cleaned the place, and I've talked about, like all the way up to people that managed it. Yeah, just don't stop. That's my advice. Don't be worried. Everyone that does this sort of research history stuff goes, don't go to Wikipedia. Like, do go to Wikipedia. Do go to Wikipedia. There's no shame in looking on Wikipedia. Don't just copy what's written there, of course. But the quality thing about Wikipedia is that someone's actually compiled a load of information on the thing that you want to talk about. And the best thing is you've got links down below that will actually take you to where they've got those sources. So you can then make a judgment call on if this is information that you want to take. So many videos, like an absurd amount of history videos I've done. That script is complete, and I'm actually, let me go check. Go check Wikipedia, and I'm like, what? There was a Sega World 2? Hang on, where's this rabbit hole take me? And then I'll just discover something crazy. Because of that leads you down. Okay, so I'm going to try and interview that person to find out information on that particular game. Don't be put off by any particular method that you need to find out information for your videos. I've used Wikipedia a million times. Just don't take it at face value.
I would say this. I think you can go to any of those sources you've discussed, any of these topics, but as long as you put your own spin on it, like it has to be from you. Because I mean, so many people come on and they're just, and I mentioned it in the Sun video when I interviewed him. So many people are monotone and robotic, and you're never going to get anywhere because there's no life to that. That's just I'm droning on about the same stuff we've all heard about. What makes, for me, your content work is I'm talking to DJ Slope here. We're hitting it. Oh my, wow, that's how you feel. Cool. I feel.
Yeah, I'm going to take you back nostalgic wise. Yeah.
Yes. Sure. and it's like I said, it's you have a way of conveying. Like I'm like, just in this time we've been talking, like you are the man that I watch on these videos. This is not just a character. This is who you are, and that means so fucking much. What was the hardest one you've done? Like, what is the one that sticks out as like, that took years off my life?
Mate, I know, probably one of the longer ones. I remember it annoyed me that I wasn't able to get Castlevania out in December.
Amazing series, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, you know what? Like right behind me, my office is a bit of a mess, but these boxes are full of the rarest games out there. They're all those Castlevania games. The guy that lent them to me, it got an awesome collaborator as well, Sobi Kwang DX. That's his collection. Like some of
Oh,
the
wow.
rarest games. I've got like Symphony of the Night about 5 times in that box. It's ridiculous. Plus many others. But that was annoying because I've been given this treasure trove of the rarest games going. We're talking PCB boards for the arcade games, every single thing possible. And I'm like, I really want to use this to the best of its ability. And I would spend an entire day just going to this crappy little woods near us and just ripping off branches and picking up old dead leaves and then ruining my game room to try and make it look like an evil looking setting so I can get some nice camera shots. And it took so long. I missed the December period. And for anyone out there that doesn't know, the reason why that's such a big deal is YouTubers make their money in December. Yeah. January is not a month where you make your money on YouTube. That's basically because Coca-Cola is going to sponsor not sponsor, but put adverts on YouTube in December, but they're, in January, it just goes back to Google themselves. So the adverts straight down. So I wanted to do a big video for December. But I didn't want to rush it, and I just didn't get it finished. I just did not get it finished in time, so I had to put it out in January. And that was a killer one. But that's one of the only ones I can think of. Splatterhouse, like I say, that made me ill.
Yeah. But it was worth it. You did it. It was a fantastic episode. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, I never. Like I say, a video's done when it's done. If it means okay, I'm probably going to be staying up another 3 hours tonight to try and finish that part of the video. It will be finished when it's finished. And that's another big sales thing. I remember, I'm not hitting numbers on the phones, or I'm not hitting a sales target at an old job where I'm selling something I'm not interested in. They're like, well, you need to find the time until you do hit that target. I'm like, fuck off. Like, no, I'm not going to get there. I'm not going to get there. But then when you're actually doing it for something you are interested in, which is YouTube, I was constantly making sure, no matter what, that video's going out this weekend, even if it means I don't sleep. It's not a healthy way to live, but that's how I spent the first few years on YouTube, because I was just so obsessed with it. I loved it that much. I still do.
Speaking of obsession, do you watch your own content back? Because I do, and I cringe because I can't stand my own voice, but I watch my own videos just to I fucked up here. I could have done better here. Do you do the same? Do you watch any of your videos?
I remember when I do it, it pains me because even though I'm really proud of Splatterhouse, I know there's a mistake in that video, an editing mistake that no one else is ever going to notice.
But
there's this one particular bit because I'm obsessed with taking the best quality cover I can of a video game cover, cutting it out, and then bringing it in layers so it all fades in at different times. And it looks all nice and spooky, especially with Splatterhouse. And there's this one particular bit where you've got the front the game cover on the screen, and it zooms out really quickly. And as it zooms out, I've made all of the layers fade at the same time, and then it goes into the next shot. And there's one particular bit on Splatterhouse where they all go, but one of the layers didn't fade. One of the layers just disappeared. And
oh my god, I actually think I know what you're talking about.
I think it's a red border.
I watched that so many times. I think I know, but I thought it looked cool because I think it was trippy the way it looked. If it is what I think it is, it may not have been what you wanted, but it came out really nice.
But there's little things like that I will notice. So to answer your question, obviously I watch them 1,000 times, and sometimes like that something falls through the cracks. But once it's done, I'm already working on the next. By the time people watch it, because sometimes I release them early if I can and whatever else, by the time that it's actually released publicly, I'm already well underway in the next history video. And other than that first week of it being released, almost never watching my content back, more because it's a time thing. Like, I know my videos are long. I ain't got time for my own videos. I'm already working on the next thing. So, but from time to time, my own video gets suggested to me on YouTube, and it might accidentally play on like a playlist or something, and then I will sit there and watch it. But I never go out of my way to watch my own content, really.
So let me ask you this: like, we're coming up to that we're 15 minutes here.
No, that's cool, man.
I asked you about advice about, research or whatnot. What overall advice would you give anybody starting out on this? What is it, if you could go back and talk to DJ Slope before you started in the beginning of all this, what advice would you have given yourself now to then?
Yeah, like I said, I've come from like a salesy background in a sense that even though that I wasn't the biggest fan of that, it has ingrained on me. I'm a bit harsher. I've been on YouTube panels where everyone's like, just be yourself and all this other stuff, give that real nice inspirational thing. Well, and then when it comes to me, right, get your notebook out. You got to make sure it's not quality or quantity. You got to make sure you have quality and quantity. You got to make sure you're pumping out, put the hours in like that, make yourself ill for this job. Like, no, but that's just how I've done it. I don't suggest that's probably how you do it, but yeah. If you want to make the best content you can, that's always your number one thing. Make the best quality content that you can. If you're going to release something that you're not proud of, I see sometimes people do newsy things and you see them mess up their own lines. And I'm like, how could you press upload on that? Have you not watched your content back before you press upload? Like make the absolute best content you can. So there's number one. Get the best quality content out there you can. Once you are on a roll of making the best quality content you can, and you are proud of it, and you're so impressed with your own content that you're willing to show it to people, that's when you need to start learning how to promote your own stuff. Luckily, you know what YouTube is, and it's very easy just to go to YouTube and say, how do I promote my own stuff? You will instantly, or hopefully you will already know, it's not about sub for sub, because that's just a deaf way of doing anything. But I used to have my own TV show back on Channel 5, and I remember a hashtag coming up in the corner of the name of the TV show, and I didn't know what that meant, but it blows my mind that I didn't think to go to Twitter and search for people that are talking about a particular topic. If I'm going to, in my earlier days especially, if I when I made Streets of Rage, I was searching for hashtags to do with Streets of Rage to get myself into communities, whether it be on Facebook, on Twitter, and getting myself in there. It was an incredible amount of work. I remember I used to have like these absurdly long baths where I'd just be like, I'm talking about showers and baths a lot on this, but I'd be laying in the bath just talking to people, never asking people, come and watch my content, please go check out my content, because no one likes that person.
No one.
But getting in conversations with people that have similar interests to you, and then organically it was growing. It very quickly moved my channel into the realm of getting at least double digits per day of new subscribers. I'm talking like at least 10 people a day were subscribing to my channel, because I was getting my content in the right fields. And then in the evenings working on the new content to put it onto the channel. So I was like, yeah, you need to make the best quality content you can. Don't put out stuff that you're not interested in. Obviously, if you're not interested in it, just don't even bother, because it will shine through. And then once you're happy with what you're making, and you're able to make it at a steady pace, probably not a good idea making yourself ill over it, but you're able to do it at a steady pace, then start learning how to promote yourself. And it's a game you're never going to complete. Right now, I'm learning new tactics on how to create smaller shorts for my second channel, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. All the right type of content, the borders that I need to add to videos. These are all things that I'm learning within the last week. It's a game you're never going to complete. You'll always be learning new ways to promote yourself.
There's always a new medium. Always a new medium as far as like the social media stuff. Because I'm starting to get into TikTok. Trips she's heavy into TikTok. She loves the TikTok. We'll sit there and just watch videos. But there's a market there to grab people if you know what you're doing. So we are getting close to that hour mark, and I won't take too much of your time. And I appreciate you coming on.
Man. I'm loving this, mate. I'm up for going for another hour. Let's do it.
So I love this guy. So I told you at the beginning I was going to ask you this. 5 years, where's Slopes Game Room going to be?
I mean, I'm never stopping. So I'm just times 5. Let's just do that, because I love it. Whether I've got to a point where I'm going to finally release that book that I want to make, or making that ridiculous complete history, like Sonic the Hedgehog, the complete history, or something so absurd, like.
I think I told my favorite son this, and again, I think I need to get you two to collaborate, because you would love the guy. I'll send you a message. He's a great. He's like what I'm watching now. I told him. So his YouTube channel is My Favorite Son. And
I've literally got the tab here, because I checked him out before we went on. Yeah,
and he calls his subscribers dad. Like, thanks, dad. I told him. I told him. I said I'm going to talk to Slopes Game Room with DJ Slopes. He goes, yeah, like I've seen some of his stuff, and I was like, dude, he could probably be your fucking dad. Like, I mean, his content to yours, the transition. And I've
Yeah.
watched him because he did those long retrospectives. I mean, hour-long retrospectives.
Mm.
And
He's
he's
someone on Fable and stuff recently, hasn't he?
yeah, now he's doing Fable, but he's doing it in chunks. I was like, that's brilliant. And
Yeah, yeah.
again, like you said, he's learning as he goes. And I
Yeah,
think
you do.
with someone like you, there's no stopping the guy. Like, he's smart, witty, has his shit together. And I that's what I love about this, is that I've gotten to meet you amazing creators who inspire me to push harder, to find other people and hopefully get them connected. Because I think if we work together, right, if we people like come together, especially in the same communities, growth is there. And you're not
Yeah.
like I said, you're not a selfish guy, but you didn't know me from Adam. It took you 5 minutes to say, yeah, I'd love to fucking get an interview. And I'm like,
Oh,
I'm
but
in.
yeah, I mean, I've always got the time. Like I said, I never forget those early days when people instantly just came back to me. I was like, well, this is freaking awesome. You know,
Yeah.
even just like, there was a couple of people that didn't have the time, but they still had the time to message me and say, not right now, but yeah, in the future.
Yeah.
I chat to people like Gaming Historian and Pat the NES Punk and all these other people, and they've always given me the time to at least say yes or no.
And that's I mean, even if you can't talk, I mean, just acknowledge someone and say, how long does it, how hard is it to say, hey, I can't, I appreciate you reaching out, but I just can't right now. Maybe in like a month or so, let me know.
Yeah,
that means
and those are the people that will differentiate, because they're not only interested in gaming history, but they're actually interested in just the whole YouTube thing.
Yes.
Yeah, like there's only, like I say, one real person that I've noticed that isn't that person, but out of the hundreds that I have spoken to, so, and that person sticks out in my mind. So you're going to be like, be that one person.
I want to be a dick. I'm going to remember you're a dick. So, but that being said, like, DJ Slopes, thank you so much. I am honored to have you here. To have the conversation.
Man. Let's do it again sometime.
I'm so down to do that again. But we are at about that hour mark. I do want to thank you again for coming on. You have any parting words for anybody who's going to watch this?
Oh man, I don't know. Thanks for checking out the channel and all that sort of stuff, and make sure you're subscribed to Rebel. I'm not going to say your full channel name, right? Am I? Go subscribe to this channel. Go show some love.
So it's all good. But thank you again. That being said, I'm Dan. He's also Dan, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.